You're watching Better Business Bureau's Business at its Best, brought to you by Ataraxis. You've got employees, we've got solutions. Human resources, insurance, benefits, and payroll. Our business is your business. BBB's Business at its Best.
Why do you trust? Now, if you take a moment to think about it, there are probably a number of reasons. Hi, Dale Dixon here with Better Business Bureau. Welcome to Business at its Best. This half-hour show airs across Idaho. It's a way for us to show you how companies in Idaho are working hard to build your trust, doing what's right. The focus of today's show is top trust builders. A number of people will stop by to show us what they're doing to build trust in their professional and personal lives. Ron Price of Price Associates breaks down the components of trust as character, competence, and truthfulness, showing you how to build and increase all three. And we take the camera on the street to hear from you. What helps you trust a company? The idea, if you're shopping, it's what you should be watching for. If you're in business, it's what you can do to ultimately build trust with your customers. Now, Business at its Best is possible because of our media partners. We're on great stations, including KTVB, Idaho's very own 24/7 in southern and western Idaho, and eastern Idaho's local news 8's Now channel. Ataraxis makes this program possible each week. The company takes care of the day-to-day work of HR, benefits, and payroll, so a business owner can focus on growing business. Cilley with Ataraxis joins us. Thanks so much for being with us today, Stephen.
Yeah,
quick word on what you do. I gave you a brief overview, but for a client,
what we do is, we like to say, is we take care of everything you have to do if you're an employer for your employees.
So I can focus on the mission of why I actually got into business to begin with.
Absolutely. All the headaches that you might have kind of go away.
Very good. So let's talk now about some of the ways that you build trust. In the grand scheme of things, relatively young company, Ataraxis, and as you're out there, you're engaged in business-to-business relationships. How are you intentionally working to build trust?
What we do is we tell them what we're going to do, and then we do it.
Novel idea, isn't it?
It is absolutely novel.
But it takes people by surprise in this day and age.
It does. The other thing that we do is we're very transparent with our pricing. So a lot of service businesses, and I know a lot of people have experienced this, which is one reason why we did it this way, is it's up front. You know exactly what it is that you're going to pay. There's going to be no surprises on your invoice. There's not going to be a sudden charge for something that you didn't expect. So that helps the business trust us and know that, hey, they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and we actually know what we're going to pay, so we can look into the future and be able to put that out when we hire new employees.
Now, I can imagine that there are some business owners that are sitting and watching this, listening to this, and they're saying, well, it's easy for him to say that from behind that desk. But what are some of the challenges you face that really, where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, when it comes to this trust building idea?
Some of the challenges is taking somebody who's got an existing maybe service contract like that is unknown, and they've experienced those unknown things for so long, and being able to show them invoices and other things that we do for other clients that lays it right out there without seeing anything different. Here it is, here's the price. It's going to be that way, and helping them experience it before they actually come on as a client.
Okay, so what's the outcome when you approach trust building like this on, basically there's some under-promising, over-delivering kind of situations. What are some specific experiences that you've had?
Shock and surprise, actually. People are surprised that you actually are doing what you say you're going to do. But then it also comes from people telling other people, hey, these guys are trustworthy, they're a great company to work with, and they're going to do what they say they're going to do. That really helps in the process to build trust otherwise, because now you've got clients who can tell other people, yes, they do what they say they're going to do, and they are an asset to our organization and help us grow.
And that gets to the referral phase.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
Absolutely. We're going to spend some time talking about that coming up soon with Ron Price. Cilley, Ataraxis, thank you so much for being with us today.
You bet. Thanks.
Appreciate it. AtaraxisPEO.com is the website. And when we return, Ron Price does join us to share how nurturing your networks is a powerful trust-building tool. You are watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best. Trust is one of the most powerful economic drivers. With it, costs go down, productivity goes up. Without trust, everything slows down and becomes much more expensive. Just take a moment and think about it. We're spending this 30 minutes showing you how Idaho companies build trust. In fact, that's what Better Business Bureau is all about, helping people buy wisely and companies sell ethically. When you see BBB accredited business, you know that a company has promised to uphold BBB's standards for trust. Advertise honestly, tell the truth, be transparent, be responsive, safeguard privacy, honor promises. As a result, trust is a strong relationship. And Ron Price of Price Associates joins us with some ideas on building those connections with other businesses. Ron, thanks so much for being with us. For those folks who haven't heard, tell us about Price Associates and what you do.
Price Associates helps leaders and their teams surf on the edge of chaos.
Surf on the edge of chaos.
We live in a world of change.
Absolutely.
And change creates opportunity. So we work with the leaders and their teams to help them get the most from that change.
So when I talk about being trustworthy, the way we just did, what are some of those things that go through your mind, and what do you see as being at the core of being trustworthy for folks?
I think trustworthiness is built on character, first of all. And character is that you do what you say you're going to do, as Steve said, and it's also that you are true to your own commitments to yourself, and it's that you're ethical and honest and things like that. Second, it's competence. Because competence is a part of trust. I might trust you in terms of character, but I'm not necessarily going to take my car to you to get it repaired. Sure. I'm going to take it to somebody who has the competence as a mechanic. So competence is a part of the trust equation. And the last part, I think, which is especially relevant in a political season, is truth in context. Because what we find politicians doing is taking truths out of context to tell their story, and we don't trust them.
It's the context that's so important in that mix.
Yeah, and we call it spin, but spin is if you take that truth outside of context, then it's gone beyond what I consider to be trust, and it becomes something that we don't trust.
So we're sitting in a television studio. There's a newsroom on the other side, and I'm reminded of that newsroom poster that says, if your mom tells you she loves you, you can trust, but verify with multiple sources.
Is that where Reagan got that from?
So as you think about this, this idea of trust, and then there's a level of skepticism, where do you balance the fine lines?
Well, I think part of building trust in an intentional way is recognizing that people have different thermometers in the way that they respond with trust. Some of us are naturally too trusting. Mm-hmm. Some of us are naturally not trusting enough, and a few of us have got it right. And I think understanding yourself and then understanding that the people you're interacting with come to you with a different personality can help you. For instance, some people, they build trust based on the warmth of your relationship and the way that you connect. Other people, that actually drives them away from trust because they think you must be hiding the facts. So they want the facts.
What are what are your hidden agendas?
Yes. So it's understanding that we're all different and the people we interact with are different. And if we can understand that difference and adapt to it, we can build trust much quicker.
So let's talk about, you mentioned relationships, but let's get to the importance of building those relationships. A lot of it has to do with really taking a moment to think about the people with whom you're interacting.
Yeah, I really think that still the most powerful tool in building trust in business today is our networks, who we know, what they think of us. One of the things that one of my friends says is it's not so important who you know, it's important who knows you and what they would tell others about you.
Oh,
and that
reputation.
Really, that's a way of accelerating trust significantly because because of what I know about you and the Better Business Bureau, I'm talking about you guys all the time and telling people that you're doing something that's really valuable in our society and it's unique to this country. It doesn't exist in other countries the way it does here. Well, that's based on the fact that I know you and I'm genuine about it. I'm not just your surrogate, but I'm genuinely referring people to you and endorsing you. That's the quickest way to build trust because those people, if they trust me, then all of a sudden they're going to trust you because you're my buddy.
Thank you for that. You brought along a diagram. Explain what folks are seeing up on the screen when it talks about building trust.
Yeah, well, you can see that as we go from the left to the right at the bottom, we're talking about some people are very trusting, other people are skeptical. As we go up, we're talking about the way that you're trustworthy. And it's really the relationship between the two of those that creates your trust quotient. The way you accelerate or multiply that trust quotient is through the relationships that you have. If you really care for them and you trust them and you help to promote them, most of the time they're going to reciprocate.
All right, Ron Price, Price Associates, the website?
price-associates.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Coming up later on Business at its Best, we take the BBB camera on the street to ask the question, why do you trust a company? The answers when Business at its Best continues. You are watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. And welcome back to Business at its Best. This is a half-hour TV show airing across Idaho. We're showing how companies all along the Snake River Plain, from Jackson Hole, Wyoming to Ontario, Oregon, are working hard to earn your business. Today, our focus is on trust building. Better Business Bureau teams up with Northwest Nazarene University each week, bringing you expertise from the university campus to your company. Dr. Ron Galloway joins us for a look at one of the strongest ways to build trust. Dr. Galloway, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. pleasure.
And we're talking about this idea of telling the truth, and you bring along a story that through the course of this is really going to illustrate the point of the importance of truth-telling and transparency as a trust-building tool.
I think storytelling is one of the best ways to get the point across. So Michael Clafferty tells a story about this Croy Sign Company that got into trouble. They were growing in the early 80s and grew up to several, like $70 million revenue, and then they got bought out and were over leveraged and eventually found themselves in a real pickle and could not even make the payment. They had $5 million to pay a $6 million bill for their debt.
And so they ultimately had to look at bankruptcy.
Right, they were looking at bankruptcy, and they decided, well, maybe instead of just losing the whole company, maybe we can bring in an expert from the outside to help us in this bankruptcy process.
So the first step is, often we're human. We're going to make mistakes throughout the process. So what I'm hearing, lesson number one is they bring somebody in who can be a fresh set of eyes and look at the situation. And what did that person do?
So they brought in this Howard Clemmer, and he looked at what was going on. This was in August of '89, and he started helping them get ready for the bankruptcy, and they filed for bankruptcy in August of '90. But in the process, he said, you know, it looks to me like we need to open up this company quite a bit. The executives are in one area, the employees are in another. They were hiding, the executives were hiding from the employees, and literally, and they didn't know what was going on. So he comes in and says, well, let's open this thing up. And the first thing he did, literally the first day, is he ordered all the doors taken off the hinges of the executives' offices. And then
that was an eye-opener.
That was eye-opening. He said, immediately the employees go, well, what's going on here? This is a different environment. They realized that something physical had happened to change the way business had been done up to that time.
Lesson number two, something physical needs to happen to show.
And then he told the employees, you can walk into anybody's office any time of day, and you can ask them any question you want to, and they will answer you honestly. And that was a big change for them. Second thing he did was he told that the executives, you must go out and visit every supplier and every distributor in person, no phone calls. You must go to them and tell them, we're going through bankruptcy, this is our plan, and this is how we're going to get out of it, and we would like for you to continue to do business with us throughout this process.
So I hear you saying that they were very intentional.
Yes.
And they looked at every little thing through the process of looking for ways to be truthful and transparent. So what's the outcome of all of this?
Well, the outcome of all this is that within 88 days of filing for bankruptcy, they left bankruptcy. And the morale on a scale of 10 had jumped from 4 to 8 out of 10 in that period of time. So by telling the truth, by opening up the books, by being honest with suppliers, with employees, even with your own executives, telling them this is how it's going to go, he was able to do a turnaround on this. Great lesson on truth-telling, and it really supports the standards of the Better Business Bureau.
Absolutely. So just a hair under 3 months. As a business professor, somebody who's been out there and seen this, how unique is that?
You know, when we look at turnaround, it usually involves truth-telling. When we see companies that fail, it usually involves collusion, hiding, and they just couldn't get away from that.
In the midst of it, you know, I think to those companies, we've gone through the economic downturn, and so often they think, okay, if we're going to have layoffs and we're going to go through some of these tough things, we need to close doors, we need to have some private conversations, we need to shield people from some of these difficult decisions. And what you're saying is that it really needs to be the opposite.
We really need to open up instead of closing down. Trust the employees we hired. Trust them to work for their own best interest, for the best interest of the company with whom they've been working for all these years. After all, they've got a huge vested interest in the positive outcome of a turnaround.
It really is the great paradox.
It is a real great paradox, yes it is.
Okay, Dr. Ron Galloway, NNU, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For bringing the paradox and making us think that we've really got to look and be intentional about truth-telling to build trust. Coming up next on Business at its Best, we show you some important lessons learned from the trust-building process. You are watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best, airing all across the Snake River Plain from western Wyoming throughout Idaho and into eastern Oregon. We're spending this 30 minutes focused on how Idaho companies build trust with you, the customer. Christine Rood is Director of Academic Affairs at University of Phoenix and was named one of 2012 Women of the Year in Business by a statewide business publication. Christine, thanks so much for being with us today. First of all, tell us why you do what you do at the University of Phoenix.
Yes, I'm the Director of Academic Affairs at University of Phoenix at the local campus, the Idaho campus in Meridian, and my job is faculty governance and academic quality. Make sure the students are receiving the classes and the programs that they want, and working with the faculty so they can deliver those classes to the best of their abilities.
Very good. Now, we've spent the last half hour with a number of guests talking about this idea of building trust. What are some of the things specifically that you do to build trust with your colleagues and with the students with whom you work?
I think one of the first things is a safe environment. If you think about a classroom, and sometimes you're back in college, you're going to class, and it's scary. You're not really willing to put your ideas out there. Maybe it's been a long time since you've been in college, and so it's really important that our faculty members know how to build a safe collegiate environment for those students, so they're willing to learn and open up and be the best students they can be.
So safety, a number of things. I can imagine that you're thinking safety from a physical safety standpoint, obviously.
Clearly that's a given.
But the sharing of ideas, I mean, you're talking about a classroom setting, and so you're going to have some new ideas, and people should feel free and safe to share.
Yeah, and maybe disagree with each other and agree to disagree is absolutely what a collegiate environment's about. And also maybe diverse. I mean, think about the diversity of learners and folks you work with on any given day, being willing to open up and listen to their ideas and maybe think about those and come back as a counterpoint in a different way in the conversation.
So that's an important lesson for businesses to think about, that they need to foster that kind of a safe environment for the exchange of ideas. That's where innovation comes from.
Exactly.
What are some of the instructions you give professors as ways to foster a safe environment in the classroom?
I mean, I think
business could listen to?
I think it's first clear instructions. I mean, through assignments. Clarity. Here's what we expect, here's how I'd like you to get done, here's how we're going to get here together. Also being very open to questions, and maybe that the faculty member or the professor isn't the end all of the ideas, is that maybe the student coming to the table also equally knows as much about that topic or that particular objective. And so maybe that is something that could transcend to business. That
takes some thinking through for everybody involved. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from others as you've gone through this process of working to build trust?
I just recently had an experience with a vice president, and she was really in charge of my day-to-day activities, and I really had a lack of trust with her and was struggling with that. And I really sat down and thought about what was my role in this relationship and what did I need to do for acceptance and maybe some empathy towards her to better understand what her role was in my world. And so for me, once I had that conversation with myself, it really did open up it actually opened up a dialogue with her, and we moved to an amazing relationship in the last 120 days.
So if you dissect that down, some interesting things taking place. Number one, you took some ownership in the situation as a trust builder.
Yes, absolutely. Instead of just blaming on her, what's she doing? What's her job? Why isn't she fixed it? Why isn't she making it better?
And trying to second guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, we talked earlier with Ron Price about one of those ideas is that we tend to become skeptical of others and wonder what their hidden agenda is. You moved outside of that.
Exactly, and said, I need to take a break from this and think about it. Absolutely.
And what's the result? What's the overall impact? What do you see happening in the classroom? What do you see happening in your personal life?
Well, for me personally, what I see is that her and I have an amazing relationship, and she's actually been reaching out to me for some special projects, which is nice. And what I also see is those are great examples for me to also talk with my faculty about if they're teaching topics around like maybe organizational management, and then also back to their classrooms. Are you the kind of person that the students should trust? Are you the kind of faculty member that the students are worthy of putting their trust into?
Very good. Christine Rood, University of Phoenix, thank you so much for sharing some insight on building trust. Better Business Bureau has a number of resources to help people find the best companies in Idaho, and BBB helps companies sell ethically. You can find us online at bbb.org. We're also on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, type in BBB Snake River. We'd love it if you hit that like button while you're there. Coming up next on Business at its Best, what do the buyers say about being trustworthy? Hear from them next. You are watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best. We're on TV in great Idaho towns all along the Snake River Plain, from Jackson Hole to Ontario, Oregon. If you're just joining us, Business at its Best is a half-hour TV show about doing business right in Idaho. Our focus today is trust building. What does building trust mean to you? Well, we asked people to share some thoughts about the topic, and here's what we heard.
Well, one of the things that a business can do to earn my trust so that I'll come back is to be polite, be responsive to concerns that I have. If I find a discrepancy in a billing, to address that in a logical, rational way, not just to deny it first thing up front. That's really one of the biggest things, is to make sure that I'm satisfied on my billing and the work that they've done for me.
A lot of it has to do with customer service and their willingness to be able to truly help you and not just want your money. Having, I guess, more of a transparent, friendly attitude is always easier to do business with someone, and it makes you want to return. Being rude, lying about a product or a service, or not being completely clear.
They'd have to have brands that I know, like it can't be brands that you don't know about. You don't want somebody just to come in once and buy something. You want them to like keep coming back. You want them to know that you're selling a good product and they're not just going to buy something and, oh, done going there.
Not be aggressive with the sale, genuine, be authentic. Yeah, when people are too aggressive on the sale and try to force it.
Excellent words there when you think about it. And here's a quick recap of what we learned on today's show. People serious about building trust work on 3 areas: character, competence, and truthfulness. Those 3 items present opportunities for constant improvement. Speaking of truthfulness, as we heard from Dr. Ron Galloway, telling the truth can be painful. First and most importantly, it's the right thing to do. Be sure to think about how you build trust, and have a great week.